What is up, Spark Nation, Rewired parents? Welcome here to the Screen Zombie Detox podcast episode where we turn teen gaming marathons into actual household help without all the drama. You know me, Dr. David, with Rewire the Response, your parenting coach and creator of the Rewire the Response framework. And if you've ever wondered why, quote unquote, just one more round of Fortnite turns into 3 hours while the homework feels like pulling teeth, well, this episode is exactly for you. No shame, no blame, but we're going to be diving into Dopamine 101 today. And I want to pack with you why video games hit your teen's brain like a dopamine jackpot, and why homework can't even start to compete with that. And most importantly, I want to give you 3 super simple strategies to rebalance the scales that you can use right now as you're listening. So this isn't about banning screens. It's not saying no more, trying to unplug the Xbox, which, believe me, as a parent, I've thought about and tried to do, and even turned off the internet several times out of frustration. But this is really about understanding the chemistry so that you can rewire the response for some real growth, some real transformation to happen. So by the end, I'm going to give you some of these scripts, some things that you can use to test right before bedtime. Try it out. Let me know how it works. So if you're new here, I want you to make sure that you grab the Detox Starter Kit and go over to my blog at drdavidapalmer.substack.com, and you can pick it up for free. And it's got some checklists and some protocols that we're going to reference today. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So let's get real about dopamine for a minute. You've probably heard that it's called the happy chemical, right? That's really only half the story. Dopamine is your brain's motivation messenger. It's what says, hey, buddy, pay attention. This could actually be very rewarding for you. So it's what drives us to seek food, connection, achievements, to level up in a game. So these games are designed to tap into that dopamine. You work hard, boom, you hit the level, prize, reward, get to go to the next level, get some coins, whatever it is. So think of it like a spotlight. When something maybe novel, new, unpredictable, or immediately gratifying happens, guess what? Dopamine floods. And the reward center of the brain lights up. And guess what? You want more, don't you? And this isn't an endless well, though, because in a balanced brain, it goes up, it goes down, and it helps us switch between tasks and maintain flexibility, which are, in fact, very important executive functions. But when dopamine kind of pushes out and surges repeatedly, what happens to our brain? It adapts. And that's why we can understand the gaming pool. So here's the kicker, and this is why neurodivergence matters, but differently depending on the type of neurodivergence. So, for example, if your teen has ADHD, their dopamine system is genuinely dysregulated. Their brains struggle to generate dopamine for low stimulation tasks, things like homework. So they gravitate towards activities that have a high reward. If your teen has autism with sensory sensitivities, then it could be a completely different story. Their challenge isn't dopamine irregularity, but it's sensory modulation. That is, the games provide consistent, predictable sensory patterns, while the unpredictability of homework or social interactions, well, feel overwhelming. So that's why, again, I talked about this in a reel, brain rot is so appealing. In fact, today in my special education class, one of my students with autism, first thing he does when he comes in is he wants to draw all of these Italian brain rot characters, right? And so what he's doing, what's happening in their brain is they're seeking regulation. They're not being defiant. So games, again, especially ones with variable rewards like battle royales or treasure boxes, they are designed to really appeal to this directly. Not like when I was a kid and we had Pong. I mean, back then, Pong was the dopamine thing, right? You tried to beat the opponent there, not letting that little ball pass your little paddle there. Well, it's gotten a lot more complex, believe me. So we can have unpredictable outcomes. You can have instant feedback. You can spawn right away. And so there is endless novelty. And if you've ever looked at these games, they're just constant updates and downloads. So think about this in light of homework, okay? Predictable, effort heavy, and the reward, a good grade, is what? Days or weeks away, and it's not as tangible. So no wonder that it feels like when you're doing your homework, it's just this drudgery, right? The dopamine pool is weak by comparison. And let's talk about the pandemic. After now living post-pandemic, screens were the default escape and the stress buffer, even for adults, weren't they? Doom scrolling, because what else is there to do? So you got to think about the baseline has now elevated, okay? Now brains crave high intensity, powerful, quick hits, making offline life feel like what? Nothing, flat. So the good news, though, is because of something called neuroplasticity, or the ability for the brain to rewire, this isn't permanent, and we can address it. So let's zoom in on why games hit harder for homework. So picture your teen's brain as a casino, okay? Games are the slot machines. You got these flashing lights, these noises, these random jackpots, this addictive pool, right? Every win, every notification, every instant message or thing that pops up on the screen spikes the dopamine. And it's just constant reinforcement, but not the same reinforcement. It's variable. So if you have the same trick and you're just looking at the same thing over, that's going to be boring, right? So what keeps us scrolling on social media, what keeps us checking emails obsessively is there may be something new or something I haven't seen before. Again, novelty. So when we look at the scientists, if we do functional MRI scans, we're able to show that active gaming lights up what's called the nucleus accumbens. All right, it's part of our brain, the reward center. Marketers, for us, even as adults, know how to hit that. So I want you to think about when you're watching television or you see ads on your screen, I want you to understand that that's what they're targeting, the nucleus accumbens. And I learned about that not through my neuroscience classes, but actually through marketing and how to gamify marketing and how to get people to finish a course. How do we finish a course? Well, they say if you put in these levels and rewards, people are more likely to finish a course versus if it's just boring lecture after boring lecture, kind of like this podcast, I guess. So need something new and novel, right? But especially when you have wins and you have losses, when you're actually playing, you're not just watching, you are actually intensifying this effect. And for teens with ADHD, this effect is even more pronounced because their brains have fewer dopamine receptors naturally, making high stimulation activities feel like the only way that you're going to get, quote unquote, enough motivation. Dr. Russell Barkley also has noted that individuals with ADHD tend to have shorter lifespans. One reason why is because they take more risks. So variable rewards, where you don't know if the next treasure box is going to be epic, creates what's called the variable reinforcement schedule. So neurologically, think of this. It's the same thing as what makes slot machines so compelling. And we live in an area where we have a few casinos around us. You walk through it. I mean, it's just, you see people who are just mesmerized by what's going on in front of them. A 50% win probability triggers the most intense dopamine response. So If I have a 50% chance of succeeding, that's going to hit that dopamine response harder. And your teen brain is getting hit with the same neurochemistry as that person sitting there in the slot machine thinking that they're going to walk away a millionaire. Now, homework. Compared to the casino, it's like playing bingo at Granny's house. Steady, but zero thrill, right? Low immediate reward, a lot of effort because you got to think about the numbers or whatever. And the payoff is not immediate, right? It's in the distant. Now, a lot goes on with science and research and blue light, but we have seen that it does suppress sleep hormones like melatonin. So now you throw off circadian rhythms by not just minutes, but by hours. You add the social element. So now we're playing games with friends. And of course, the ever tempting draw of just escapism, right? Getting out of the stress of real life and real world. And now you got a perfect storm. And if your teenager or child now is neurodivergent, this creates what's called the reward baseline shift. So once gaming becomes baseline for stimulation, everything else feels boring or even a punishment by comparison. That's why you hear all the time, I'm bored. I'm bored. So they're looking because that baseline for stimulation is now revved up. And it's not addiction for everyone. So I think the thing I hear most, and I've thought for a long time before studying this, was, oh, they're just addicted to video games. But there's a real neurological recalibration you have to understand. And I've seen this, like, again, over and over again, even in my own home. So you ask them, hey, can you take out the dishes? And they don't do it. And we say, okay, you're just defying me, right? You're just willfully choosing to disobey me. But what I want you to understand is it's chemistry. And the good news is that you can hack it and you don't have to scream and yell and threaten and be the drill sergeant. So I'm going to give you a couple strategies, okay? Remember, knowledge is power. And if you want to rewire your response, knowing has to turn into action. So let me give you 3 quick strategies, something to think about here to try from my Rewire the Response framework. And it can help maybe start bridging that dopamine gap tonight. Okay, low drama, research backed. Here's the deal. You have to focus on co-regulation first, not control. Relationship. We have to have connection and not focus on compliance. So, number 1, dopamine priming. Stack quick hits before the offline task. Stack quick hits before the offline tasks. So what we want to do, we want to walk over, pull the controller out of their hands. You're just going to ask for a fight, right? So we need to start priming nervous systems for these transitions. So before homework and chores, we can do, let's say, a 2-minute boost stack. So how can we do that? We can put on their favorite song, something they want to start moving with, grab a snack, maybe step outside, throw the ball around a little, or draw on if they're younger, draw on the sidewalk with chalk or something. You know what your teen likes or what your young teenager likes. So then say, that was our quick win. Now let's get this first page of homework done together. And what you're doing is you're neurologically mimicking the game's instant gratification, making the transition smoother. And so for neurodivergent kids, when we start adding in sensory elements like fidget toys, weighted blankets, or food, or whatever their body craves, and what's happening is we're activating their dopamine system briefly, then we can take that energy and redirect it towards the task. Now, it doesn't always go smoothly, I'm just telling you, but you get where I'm coming from. So it works best when the sensory inputs vary slightly. So if you make it too predictable, meaning you always are playing the same song or whatever, guess what? Their brain is going to adapt. And if you try to make it too chaotic, then you're also going to get them to a place where they're feeling overwhelmed. So you just got to find that spot. Okay. Talk to them about it. What helps you? The second thing you can try is friction reducers. And so we make starting microscopic small. Homework feels overwhelming because it is like a dopamine desert. The ground is just dry. And you don't overcome that with willpower. Just grit down and do it. Remember, this is brain chemistry. So you got to overcome it by lowering the barrier to entry. Break it down hard. Use first 3 rule. Goes like this. Let's do the first 3 problems side by side together, and then we'll just take a pause. So now you're using behavior momentum. Getting started is the hardest part. You know that, right? Just getting them done. And so having them stare at the paper, even younger kids, staring at the paper, saying, you know what, we're just going to sit here until this is done. That's not going to happen. But maybe if we co-regulate and we do this together, a little body doubling, we can say, hey, let's just do the first 3. And then continuing starts to feel less terrible. And you can do it first. We're going to, or when we finish these first few, then you can get your 10 minutes back online. You can earn it. So now there's a predictable connection between effort and payoff. Now for adults, again, when you get your work finished, then you get paid, right? So ADHD brains need this, okay? So you can say something like this, depending on what your comfortability of language is with your kids. But, you know, I get it. This sucks right now. And so let's do the tiniest bit together. Then we can go back and look at how we did. No pressure, no shame, just tiny wins that keep building momentum. By the way, I have ADHD, and this is what I have to do when I have long paperwork projects to do, like these long IEPs or whatever to write. It's like, okay, I tell myself these things. Let's just get this section done. You can get up, take a break, go outside, and then we come back and do it. Okay. Third thing, then we'll close this out. Reward timing tweaks. So bring payoffs closer. I just have learned on my own, and as a parent with my wife, and working with our kids, and then looking and listening to parents at school. It's kind of like, well, if we get all happy faces this week, we can get ice cream on Friday, and then it's like Tuesday, and then it breaks down. And we're like, okay, now you don't get your ice cream on Friday. It's too far. Remember, games reward instantly, or are pretty close to instantly. So you don't have to, go 35 levels and spend, 10 hours on a game just to get one reward. If that was the case, then nobody would like video games. So we try to do the best we can to mimic that offline. So we don't want to wait until all the homework is finished to celebrate. That's how it's like. That's how it was when I was growing up. When you finish it all, but it seems like this insurmountable mountain, and then you give up and you go, forget it. This isn't going to happen. So set a visible timer for the chore, and then immediately follow with something rewarded. So maybe it is Wi-Fi access. Maybe it is a snack. Maybe it is a 10-minute break, whatever lands for your kiddo. Now, this is consequence mapping in action. Clear, immediate, affirming links between the effort and the payoff. For example, the timer starts now, dishes done in 10 minutes, unlocks another 30 minutes of game time later. Okay? Don't go for the abstract future awards. Well, when you get this done, we'll see what's going to... No, that doesn't work. Okay? Why? Again, neuroscience. And I can sense some of us thinking, when I grew up, we didn't have this. And, now we're just, catering to kids and all. But remember, when we grew up, we didn't have all of these things that are around today. So don't compare, like when I was a kid, I used to be able to sit for hours and play in my room. That's great. But I bet you, if we were to go back and look at you, you weren't just sitting always playing the same thing. Or even when we say we used to use our imaginations, kids today don't have imaginations. It's doing the same thing. Okay. But we live in a different world. So remember that immediate rewards activate dopamine pathways more intensely than delayed ones. So your ADHD brain doesn't just My ADHD brain doesn't just prefer immediate rewards, it literally experiences future rewards as a less real and less valuable thing. So we just do the best we can to meet them where their brain is at. So we can even track wins in fun ways, but we're building endurance, we're building resilience. If we want to build long-term dopamine, and we want kids to understand in the real world, right? I have to work for like a whole month before I get paid. Then you have to build up to that. It's not something that's going to automatically just be there. And be careful with rewards. They're not bribes. Okay. That's why I always like to use the term we earn. Okay. And not every win is going to get the same reward. Again, if it becomes too predictable, then what's going to happen is brains adapt, effectiveness drops. So maybe it's 10 minutes of gaming. Maybe sometimes it's a snack. Maybe sometimes it's a social check-in with your friends. You want to keep it fresh, keep it moving. Now, these aren't magic and they don't work 100% of the time. But again, when we talk about rewiring the response as a rewired parent, we understand we're in this for the long term. And over time, and working with neurobiology, not against it, you will start to see some progress and you'll start to see that zombie fog lift. And if you don't believe me, I wish I could tell you the names of people I've actually worked with who have teenagers and in my own family ways that this has worked, but you got to try it out. So there you have it, Dopamine 101 demystified. So games are not the enemy. Unbalanced chemistry is. So with some of these tips, I'm hoping that you'll be able to equip your teen and yourself for this transformation that sticks. Because remember, whether your teen has ADHD, autism, or is just struggling with screen overload, the underlying principle is the same. Their brain needs regulation, not punishment. So, again, if this resonated, dive deeper with my free detox starter kit. Again, drdavidapalmer.substack.com. It's printable. It's free. Throw it up on your fridge, wherever you need to put it. And we're going to keep working on this. If you have enjoyed this and you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do that. Share it with a friend as a conversation starter. And then, of course, on Instagram, on Facebook, you can message me, DM me at Dr. David A. Palmer. I want to hear your biggest takeaway and share them. You can even respond to this on Substack if you're listening on Substack. I want you to tell me what is your biggest takeaway or what is the first strategy that you're going to try. And remember, you're not alone in this. So small steps lead to big changes. So until next time, keep rewiring. Remember, we're here to stop fighting the fires and to start understanding the spark. So we'll see you next time.